Want to go far in business and in life? You can't do it alone. The secret is expanding your network of personal relationships, building friendships, connecting on an intimate level, away from the office, over a coffee or cocktail. Welcome to All In with the real Nate Payo. The show that asks what happens when you go all in and leverage the power of your network of personal relationships.
From author Donnie Bovine comes the book, How to Be a Success Champion, available on Amazon. After years of living other people's dreams, author Donnie Bovine decided to jump out on his own and start a business, thinking it would be easy. Instead, he had a rude awakening and quickly understood that he had spent 20 years being an employee and had no idea how to be a business owner. His business was tanking, and he was on the brink of losing everything when he decided to fight for business freedom. In this must-read and life-changing book, author Donnie Bovine shares with readers his story intermingled with lessons learned from his mistakes and his failures. In How to Be a Success Champion, you will find advice the author received from mentors and how he went from zero to a six-figure business. The author walks you through the steps of how to get out of your own way, how to play the game of business and win, find your strengths, how to network effectively, how to build a personal brand, how to create champions for your business, how to get great at sales, how to take complete ownership of you and your business. How to Be a Success Champion from author Donnie Bovine, available on Amazon in both Kindle and paperback editions. Order your copy right now. It makes a great book for corporate events too. How to Be a Success Champion from author Donnie Bovine, available on Amazon.
Hello. Welcome to the All In podcast with Nate Payo. I am your host, of course, Nate Payo. Today, I'm joined by guest Jenna Malone. Welcome to the show, Jenna.
Thank you for having me.
So Jenna is an artist. She's a clothing brand owner. She's from Long Island, New York. And you like talking about mental health awareness and knowing your worth. And I think that's kind of, relates to your brand of underpaid clothing.
Yeah, definitely.
So one of the things I like to do is introduce my guests and a little bit of like the backstory, how we met, how we connected, because I think that's important to know when you're out networking, that like you never know who you're going to come across and meet. And I'm a follower of Gary Vee, and I think a lot of people listening are followers of Gary Vee. And you had posted, or you're on Gary Vee's Tea Time, and you had talked about, I think, struggling with a little bit of self-doubt about getting into your business. So I was like, hey, that's like the topic I want to talk about. It's important to me. Let's connect. I think I messaged you on your Instagram and didn't get a response back, but then you messaged me on my Twitter and you're like, hey, can I come on your podcast? So it was like two ships crossing in the wind. So it was kind of cool how we met and got connected. So how was that being on Tea Time with Gary Vee?
Well, first of all, it was nerve-wracking. I was nervous. I was completely nervous just talking to him. And it was unbelievable. Like when when the team reached out to me and told me that I was picked, I kind of couldn't believe it. And even still, I'm like, yeah, I was picked, but like, I don't know, like maybe they won't have me on or something. And like the first day they have so many people in the queue too, that like sometimes you're not on the day that you expect to be on. Mm-hmm. So the first day I was not picked and I was picked the next day, but it was incredible. And just, I've seen his, the ex Gary Vee show plenty of times. And I always would, think I want to be on that show one day, and to be able to be on Tea Talk was 10 times better because he takes more time to speak with people, and, you got a much more, thorough response from him.
So for the people that maybe haven't heard that episode, what was like your big, challenge that you asked about, and what was your takeaway from it?
Well, at the time, I actually wanted to give up on my clothing brand. I had just gone through 2 months of no sales, a couple months of very low engagement on all my social media channels. And I just thought that not a lot of people care about the brand. I just thought like maybe I picked the wrong niche. Maybe, this wasn't the right idea to start a business around. And when the whole pandemic started, I was on TikTok around April, so it was kind of when it had just started. My mind just went straight into negativity. It went straight into everybody's losing their job. I was watching the news way too much. I was like, it's going to be another recession. Like, people aren't going to be spending, extra money on a t-shirt that they don't need. My mind just went straight negative, and which actually brings me into my biggest takeaway from being on Talk, which is that I am still very stuck in a negative mindset, and I need to get over that, not only to be successful in business, but to live a happy and fulfilled life. And Gary, when I was on the show, was telling me a story about how he was proposing an idea to his dad about the wine business. And his dad went straight into everything that can go wrong. And Gary spent the first 4 minutes explaining to him everything that can go right. And just that story alone really resonated with me. I'm thinking like Gary's dad. With every situation, I think this isn't going to work out. And that's preventing me from going forward in life. That's preventing me from doing things that I want to do. Because my mind, if it automatically goes into, well, this isn't going to work out, then you're not going to even try with a lot of things. And I think my biggest mindset shift was, instead of thinking this isn't going to work out, think about, what if this does go right? And Gary had told me as well to put up one of my drawings, because at the time I was like, maybe I should just like pursue being an artist. I kind of, thought maybe that might be a better path for me to go down. So he has suggested to put one of my drawings on Instagram and tell people, sorry, everyone, but Gary made me do this. I'm selling this drawing for $80. And I did it, and the drawing sold. So that kind of proved in me that like something that I didn't think was possible, I was actually able to achieve. So my mindset for life going forward is going to be, what if it does work out?
Yeah, that's a great mindset, and you're definitely not the only person that feels that way. And I've had, in my past, I've started a few businesses that didn't work out and they had limited success, and I've wanted to start other businesses that I probably never took off, because I would get to that point, like where you're saying, you're going, maybe this isn't for me. Maybe nobody wants this brand. Maybe nobody cares about this. And maybe you just kind of talk yourself into like, oh, it's a lot of work for like nobody caring about. Like, I just don't want to put myself out there. But you push that aside and you go about your life for a little while, and all of a sudden that itch comes back and you're like, hey, I need to scratch this itch. I need to do something. And for me, I just came to the realization that a lot of those things are just stories I tell myself in my head, and so
today is May 27th, 2000.
Sorry.
no worries. But we tell our stories, these things in our head that like we're good enough, or not, that somebody else can be big and famous. Somebody else can create a clothing brand that's very successful, but they all started on day one too. Like, and Gary's one of the people, like, I've gone back and watched Wine Library TV from like the first episodes, and he's like start off with a camcorder and this like, really unpolished, very basic. His enthusiasm is like there, but it's a lot more raw and a lot less intense. And you just go, you got to start somewhere. You have to get over your shortcomings and provide your worth to the world, because what if you made a difference in somebody's life? And I think your message between your brand, I don't know if we've mentioned it yet, but it's called Underpaid Clothing, right? And it's I think your message, well, I'll let you tell your message, but it's, what if you made a difference in somebody's life with that, just that one person, and you said, hey, was I too selfish to put myself out there when I could have made a difference in somebody's life? I think when you start looking at, you're called to answer your gifts and share your gifts with the world. When you do that, you're going to influence people's lives a bit more. So maybe with that, you could talk a little bit about your brand, because I did want to comment on some other things around the stories we tell ourselves after you share your little bit about your brand.
Yeah, definitely. And I just want to say before I share about my brand, I think you hit it perfectly right there, because after I was on the show, I had a ton of people reaching out to me, telling me I inspire them. I had artists telling me I inspire them to now sell their artwork. I had, and then people started as well with the clothing brand telling me that this is making a difference in their lives. And as someone who, I guess, just didn't have a lot of self-confidence, that to show that I can inspire other people is really powerful. So anybody can inspire other people. So I just wanted to mention that first.
Well, it's very powerful for sure.
Yeah, definitely. It's powerful once you realize that, that anyone could do that. So the clothing brand, my clothing brand is Underpaid Clothing, and the story behind that is I've worked in a lot of toxic work environments where I felt like I was not paid what I was worth. And I'm the type of worker who just likes to work hard no matter what company I'm working for. And I followed the model that society and parents say you should follow, like go to college, get a job with benefits, work at that job for 30 years and then retire. And then that isn't realistic anymore for everybody. And when I got my first job out of college, I was only making like $2 more than minimum wage, and I had all this student debt, and I just felt very discouraged. And I worked in very toxic work environments where the management would leave passive aggressive notes throughout the building about how we had to come in on Mother's Day and Memorial Day, or we'll get fired. We had to sign things during busy season telling us that if we call out sick, we have to provide doctor's notices. And we would get screamed at in the middle of the office. And in 2018, I had actually wanted to, I'm all over the place. In 2018, I was laid off from my job, and I was laid off 20 days before Christmas via text message. And, so I was on unemployment for a little while, and that was a struggle. And, I was going on job interview after job interview, trying to prove my worth to employers, and I got rejection after rejection. And 5 months into unemployment here in New York, unemployment at the time ran for 6 months. So I was about to run out of my unemployment benefits. And by month 5, I just completely, my depression, my anxiety, I'm usually a pretty productive person when I'm depressed and anxious. But by May, I just 5 months into unemployment, I just couldn't get out of bed anymore. And one day I did get out of bed and I started an Instagram page for underpaid clothing. And that was it. And I wanted to start the business for 10 years prior to that. I actually designed the first shirt back in 2008.
Mm-hmm.
And, I wanted to start it back then, and I had everything I needed to get going, but then I ran out of funds and I kind of put it on the back burner for a while. But a lot of that also had to do with doubt, kind of like fear of failure type of thing. So
It's kind of funny you say that, because when you want to do something, like you get creative and you find a way to make it happen, but you can let the self-doubt get into your head and tell you, like, it's kind of hard, like you don't have the money today to do it. Why don't you wait, get a job, do whatever, put this on, like you said, on the back burner, and when the time is better, like, we'll revisit it. But my experience in life is there's always something that will come up. You're always going to have the next challenge. Life gets in the way, and there'll never be a better time than now to start doing something, except for maybe 10 years prior. But obviously, you can't go back in time. And the idea behind underpaid, what I was going to say to you is kind of this, like, thought I was having of this value, and the value we tell ourselves, like you're saying, hey, I'm not good enough to sell this shirt. And Gary's like, hey, sell your art and prove your worth. Like, you went out there and you proved your worth. And once you do that, and you say to yourself, hey, I've seen somebody else do it. So when you see somebody else do, you go, I could probably do that. But when you do it yourself, like, that you could do it again. And you could do it again. And if you could do it one time, you can do it 2 times. If you do it 2 times, you do it 10 times. If you do it 10 times, can you do 20, 200, 300, and just keep going? Like, everybody that's ever started anything, sold anything, started with one and built some steamroller. Nobody went out and sold 1 billion shirts their first day. They had to build something up to it. So I think that's a really cool thing behind the underpaid, is that, like, it's also about valuing, like, what's your worth. The stories you tell yourself in your head, what am I telling myself my value is, and having some confidence by making a sale and going, hey, you know what, I am worth more, and I'm going to go out there and chase and get it. So I think that's a really, really cool brand. And I like what you've been doing with your social media too, especially with the pandemic going on too. There's a lot of people are out there working for minimum wage or just a little bit over, and they're putting themselves at harm's way for, because they're essential workers, and they're doing that. And, we want to make sure that those people are taken care of and are treated fairly. I think that's an important cause to get behind.
yeah, definitely. And, that's, there's a big divide around that, because there's been, a fight for a $15 minimum wage going on for a while in this country. And the same people who said that these essential workers, don't deserve $15 an hour, are the same people who are now relying on those people to eat,
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of interesting if you think about it.
Yeah. So one of the questions I always like to ask my guests when they come on is this idea around luck. And, what does the word luck mean to you? How does it relate to your journey in life so far? And do you believe in luck?
Do I believe in luck? I do, to a certain extent, but I also more believe in mindset over luck. Do I think that people get lucky and are first-time business owners and just hit it with the right idea and their business just blows up? Yeah, I believe in that. That's luck. But I believe that it's more about mindset. I'm realizing how powerful mindset is. over luck. And I think that, I think there's a lot of people that are in a negative place. And I used to be one of them, by the way. I think there's a lot of people that are in a negative place and don't feel like there's any way out, which kind of ties to my clothing brand as well, because I feel like a lot of people who are underpaid just feel like it's always going to be that way. They're always going to be stuck at that job. They're always going to be stuck at a job like that. And I think that mindset is everything in life. Like, you have to believe that you're worth more, that there are bigger things in life for you. So I believe that I definitely believe that mindset is more powerful than luck.
I would wholeheartedly agree with that. And this may sound kind of like mumbo jumbo-y about, like, when you attract things into your life with the thoughts that you put into your head, you're like, oh, if I'm just going to want and wish for something, it's not going to magically appear. But I've been focused on this saying lately, which is thoughts become actions and actions become outcomes, and how important those thoughts are, because the outcomes are a product of the actions you take, right? And the actions you take are going to be, it's the to-do list, it's checking the boxes. So your mindset to check boxes off your to-do list doesn't always have to be positive. It doesn't always have to be negative, but the thoughts you put in your head impact that. Because if you're not feeling like doing something and you sit in your head and you go, I don't feel like this, I'm never going to get out of this rut, why bother taking these steps? Are you more or less likely to go check the boxes on your to-do list? You're probably less likely. But even if your day sucks, but you go, hey, you know what? My day sucks. I'm not real happy with where I'm at in life. It's a challenge every day to get up and do what I need to do. But I'm thinking in my head that I want that outcome more than I want where I'm currently at. I'm going to do these things regardless of how I feel. And I'm going to start checking those boxes. And so when you start putting the thoughts in your head that what's more important, what are the things putting you in your acts, it's not just like, oh, I'm wishful thinking everything all day, but having the attitude of like, I'm going to do this even though I don't feel like doing it, starts becoming, I'm going to do this because I choose to do it, because I want to do it. And then if you keep doing that repeatedly, you're right, your mindset changes. You start building momentum because you're checking the boxes, you're moving towards this outcome. So, when I say action and inaction is just as much as an action. It's like moving you closer to your goal, or it's not moving you closer to your goal. So you can be really good at sitting on your couch. You could be the best couch sitter out of it. But if you're not going to get paid for sitting on the couch, you're not going to go get anywhere. So you got to be moving the thing. So I think that's so true with this mindset thing. It's just thinking about, every day, am I moving it forward? And you can start retraining in your mind how you think about yourself. You start making, easy achievable goals. Like you sold one painting for $80. Like, could you sell another one for $100? And you say to yourself, like, I did 80, I could probably do 100. I could probably do 200. Like, what would somebody like really pay me for this? And you'd be surprised what people, when they feel confident about what they're doing, like they talk about it, like you can accomplish more, and you go, hey, I could do a little bit more next time. And then you build a lot of momentum. So I think you're right on the money there with mindset being a bigger impact than luck, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And action is so important. I was pretty close to not submitting a question for Tea Talk with Gary Vee. A moment that is already, I can already feel being on Tea Talk changed my life, because I already feel myself thinking more optimistically, and I'm self-aware about my negative thoughts, and I stop them and reframe my negative thoughts into positive ones. But just one decision, I was very close to just thinking, they probably won't pick me, I'm not even going to ask my question. But I asked it anyway.
Yeah. And it's crazy how, like, that's like, you're talking about the people that have been inspired by you. There's people watching your journey. There's people like there's so many people that are never ever going to tell you that they watched your journey and they were inspired by it. They're never going to like a comment or post or do anything. They're just going to be silent lurkers, because this happens all the time. And maybe one day you'll bump into somebody in an elevator and they'll say, hey, when I was at a low point in my life in 2020, I saw your thing and I've been following you since, and I've watched you grow and take off. And it inspired me to do this. Because people, like, we get kind of down on ourselves, like, oh, nobody's liking my post, nobody's buying it, but we're planting seeds and we're waiting for them to harvest. And we don't see all that growth that's happening underground. And a lot of people don't reach out and say that hey, I like what you're doing. So we just assume nobody likes it, nobody cares. And sometimes it takes a while to find the people that we relate to or that relate to us. We find our tribe, I guess you could call it. But you are making a difference. And I think you're going to see continued success. And because of your journey, you're like documenting. It's like, hey, somebody's going to watch this whole process of you going from the I guess the point of no return where you said, hey, I'm going to quit, to shoot, I'm taking this thing to the moon. I'm going to put all my efforts into it. I think that's an amazing story, an amazing journey to watch. And just, getting, people are just going to support you just for that. And it's going to grow and steamroll. I have a pretty good feeling for that.
I appreciate that.
So that leads me to my next question, which is this idea around the show that I've created called the All In. And what does being all in mean to you on an idea or an outcome? Or in this case, maybe with your business, what does it mean to be all in?
I think the first thing that comes to mind is putting yourself out there. And that's something that was very difficult for me. I grew up with social anxiety, and in high school, I didn't even talk to anybody. And how I got through that, how I got through my social anxiety, and how I became someone who put myself out there more, was just taking baby steps out of my comfort zone. And over time, I realized that's not so scary, or that's not so bad. And when I started Underpaid Clothing, I was very worried to put myself out there. I just didn't want to be the face of the brand. And
did you just hide behind the logo and like, I want the logo to be the face of the company instead of Jenna Malone?
Yeah, pretty much. I was naive enough to think that just coming out with a great design would just sell itself. And I wasn't aware of how important storytelling is, especially since my story is so much the reason I started the brand. So to me, going all in is putting yourself out there. And one thing I learned recently as well is if something's not working, trying something different. You can't just keep trying the same thing over and over again and then getting mad that it's not working. You got to try different things. If your Instagram page is not doing good because Instagram engagement's going down, try YouTube, try TikTok, try Pinterest, just trying different things, going all in, innovating, thinking of ways to be different. And that's what excites me. So
yeah, I like the idea of like, trying different things. And somebody was talking, I think on social media the other day in a Twitter exchange, and they were saying, like, I tried everything. Like, well, you didn't try everything, because if you tried everything, you would have found the solution. There's a solution for everything. So like you said, you're like, oh, I tried everything. Well, maybe you tried all the social media apps and they didn't work. But then you could say, if you start asking yourself more questions, better questions, you start thinking about solutions. So you go, oh, nobody's coming to my social media page. Well, where else would I find people that want to buy my shirts or buy my brand, or where? And you could think of places like, well, maybe there's, an event or something like that. I mean, maybe not now with COVID, but like you start thinking of other alternative ways. You go, hey, a lot of people started their clothing brands by driving around in their car with a box full of, the trunk full of shirts, and they'd show up at. Yeah, do you remember Tap Out by chance? The guys that were like when MMA, UFC's like first kind of came out. Do you remember those guys?
No,
So
I'm not too familiar with MMA.
Okay, so these guys created this brand called Tap Out. And this was like when UFC was like really small and really underground. This would probably be like 2000 to 2005. And they just drove from show to show to show, and local events, just like, bottom of the barrel MMA underground fighting, and just like would sell their t-shirts and like constantly did that. And I think a lot of people that did brands like did a lot of guerrilla marketing, like, pounding the pavement, making connections with people. And that to me is really like the core of it. Like you said, like you can't just sit there and make, hey, I got cool designs, it's going to sell themselves. I can't hide behind the logo, because people buy from people that they like, and you have to get your story out in front of people, and you have to be able to share it with people. And it's not just you're not like unique in this thing where it's like I'm going to let the brand do it. But like I've worked with startup companies, like engineers that go, hey, if I make a really great product, people are going to buy it. I don't understand why we have sales and marketing departments for this like really cool product. And then they go into like CEO of this company that they're founding. They're like, oh crap, I got to figure out how to sell my product because it's not taking off on its own. People aren't just showing up on my doorstep, and it becomes telling a story. And part of that story is you as the founder sharing like your vision behind it, what it means to you, where you want to take it, where do my dollars go to? It's a huge part of the process. And for you to be self-aware enough to just go, hey, like I got to take those baby steps. I mean, even when I started my podcast journey, I was like, hey, I got to do this more. And I was talking to a friend, and she called it your social media hangover. And it's where you post something on social media that like you're a little bit uncomfortable telling somebody about, and you do it. And like as soon as you post it, you go, oh crap, I got to take that down. Nobody's liked my post. And then like you delete it. And then you go, thank God nobody saw it. But in reality, you kind of got to say, hey, if I want to do something big, I got to put it out there, and I got to let people see it. And if it doesn't resonate with people, nobody saw it. Well, cool. Nobody saw it. Who cares? Like, what do you got to lose? Oh, what if everybody saw it? Well, isn't that what you wanted to happen anyways? So it's like, it's a no lose situation. You're either nobody's going to see it or everybody's going to see it. And the people that do see it are going to want to see more, or they're going to, move on, and they're not your tribe anyway. So it's kind of, I don't know. It's definitely a challenge to get over, and self-doubt's a huge, stumbling block for most people. Me in particular, I sit there and struggle with it all the time and question myself, like, oh, was it worth it? And to keep doing what you're doing and put yourself out there as an inspiration, I think is wonderful. And I think it's going to be an inspiration to others. So let's talk about that person. Who is your ideal customer, your ideal person that's going to, support the underpaid clothing brand?
I would say someone who feels like myself, like the system doesn't work, as far as like just because you go to college doesn't mean you're going to be promised the greatest paying job. Somebody who is just that essential worker who's tired of risking their lives for a paycheck that might not pay their rent and food for the month. I've watched a lot of stories of people who are struggling to get by, and, they're working a full-time job, or they're working 2-3 jobs, and they have to choose between, paying rent or buying groceries this week. So I would say people who, and a lot of people get super passionate about it because I had a lot of people, it hits that emotions with them. As soon as they see it, it's either they love it or they're like, that's not my thing.
Yeah. Very cool. So Where can people go to find your clothing brand? Where can they go to find you? Where should we send them if they want to connect with you?
So my clothing brand is Underpaid Clothing on Instagram, TikTok, on Twitter. I'm underpaid_co. On YouTube, it's Hello, I'm Underpaid. And my personal pages on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube are Jenna_jams.
Very cool. So if you're listening to this, please connect with Jenna. Go follow her. Just watch her journey. I think it's an amazing story. I think there's going to be a lot you'll see developed. And if you can, go over there and support the brand. Appreciate you coming on the show, Jenna. It was great having a conversation with you.
I appreciate you having me. Thank you.
Thanks.
Make sure to visit our website, therealnatepeo.com, where you can subscribe to the show on iTunes, so you'll never miss an episode of All In. While you're at it, if you found value, we'd appreciate a rating on iTunes, or if simply tell 2 friends about the show. Looking to connect? You can find Nate Peo on LinkedIn or Instagram.